Trouble with primitives in any art form.
The trouble with primitives in any art form is that they're
a dozen. You can trip over them in the streets. Anyone can present himself as a primitive.
This is how Ace and I think of humans.
Be quite simply untalented.
Primitives.
Or just lazy. Or money-minded. Or all three at once.
Oh, yeah!
Welcome to Tavern Talk. We are live, ladies and gentlemen, and humans on all the spectrums, and we are here to talk about The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. This is the epic fantasy series we've all grown up loving, and we're here again to talk about this. Brother Dan, joining me as always. Okay, you're more energetic than normal. Joining me as always is my brother Dan, Jansen DeCleveland, and Beth Doman. All right, thank you all for joining us, and we're We're here. We have a very special show. We're continuing our deep dive into the Ajahs, which has given me a surprising amount of conversation. As always, you guys are blowing my minds.
Right? I thought it was 1 or 2 shows tops. Like it's like I'm like, well, there's no way this is going to be a series. But yeah. I'll be surprised if we get through all 3 Ajahs tonight, because there's a lot to talk about.
Either way, I've made a YouTube playlist for all the videos we have talking about the Ajahs. And if you want to go back, it'll be in our playlist lists, which is hard to say. Don't say that 3 times fast.
Playlist lists, playlist lists.
Okay.
I'm a cunning linguist. I understand.
You messed up the first one, though, right?
Playlist lists, playlist list, playlist lists.
Playlist. Okay, all right, that works. Cunning linguist, as always, coming through strong. Well, we have 3 special guests this week, which is an unusual thing, but 2 returning, 1 new. Let's bring them all in. That's right. Ladies and gentlemen and humans on all the spectrums, we have with us Mr. Stovey, Tavern Tavern, and Dad Swain Sadai.
Yay.
All right, the party is beginning. The tavern is filling up. There are drinks flowing. I see brisket over there. I see mutton chops. No, mutton, not mutton. Mutton and chops, not mutton chops. Everyone is imbibing. We're having the time of our lives. Or we're close to it. Mr. Stovey is here.
Oh, go ahead.
So yeah, Tavern Tavern's been our resident guest, and Dad Swain has joined us for the Ajah discussion. But very, very specifically, Mr. Stovey is here almost on a political mission. We're normally not political on this channel, but she is here to defend the Green Ajah. Apparently, we've disparaged their names. We lambasted them, we debased them, and she's ready. She's coming in hot and heavy. But before, yeah.
Dobby looks sky-clad.
Yeah, I'm wearing my Green Ajah corset, but unless I stand back here, you can't see it, and I kind of look naked.
Look like you're a Green Ajah who's currently liaising with the Aiel, and you're in a sweat tent.
Or looking for warders.
Looking for order. I'm on the prowl.
Yeah,
She's on the prowl.
The Green Spirit just kind of sit by the training grounds and drool, right?
That's what we do. That's what we do.
All right, everyone, hit that like button. Let's get the algorithm going. Let's massage the algorithm. We're gonna take it slowly. We're gonna edge the algorithm.
Truce.
Are we doing the 4 Ajahs? The last 4 Ajahs tonight?
Yes, we are. Yes. Who's been keeping track? What do we got left?
We have green,
yellow, blue, green.
Blue,
and
yellow and blue make green.
And black, because it's gonna come up.
Let's say hi to Jay. Diggity.
No, it's not gonna happen.
The Black Ajah exists?
Black is, black is uniform. Black is everywhere. So I'm sure that we will address specific black Ajahs within these. But yeah, we're talking about the last 3. We already talked about all the others. We talked about the biggest and we talked about the smallest. So now we're talking about the meat and potatoes, the ones that we know best, honestly. Nynaeve became yellow. Elaine became green. And Egwin became blue.
No,
She became
all of them and none of
All
them.
of them and none.
I mean,
never picked one,
technically,
right?
she became white.
That makes sense.
You know what?
Get it?
I'm just saying.
It's too soon. 10 years
It's not.
is too soon.
It's not too soon. Read the shirt.
All right,
Yeah,
we're gonna go shirt. This is shirt time.
Nope.
Hey,
No.
Guinea, go pop!
And Gweeney go pop.
And that's what the cute, adorable Trolloc is saying on his show.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't Egwene, and technically she was, symbolically indoctrinated into the green by, who was it, Adalorna Bastine?
Actually, hold that thought real fast, Jansen. With Matt Staggart, your kindness and generosity is superb. It always gets
I'm
jumped
gonna
up.
close my eyes for this.
So can Dobie tell me I've been bad, very bad, please? Let's go ahead and just
All right.
pop her in here.
Turn the music off.
Yeah.
You've been such a bad boy. So very bad.
Yes.
There we go.
All right. Any more? You gotta pay. Yeah.
All right, guys.
Hey everyone, that's worth $20, right?
Now, Dovey, you need to tell him he's been a very good boy. Because that's
going to cost extra.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
gonna cost
He's
extra.
gotta pay
We'll
for
see
that.
if that's We'll see. We'll see. if Dobie gets to do that.
And that's the show, folks. I'm out. Okay.
Yeah.
Good thing the
All right.
camera's cut off at the belly button.
Yeah.
All right. So, Jansen, go ahead and start what you were saying again. I'm sorry.
I was saying she was kind of like symbolically indoctrinated into the green. I remember like there was a quote of hers saying, "Now the green claim me," and then she says, "Well, she would use them," and I did think that was in the Gathering Storm.
I
But-
feel like in her
but she was already the Emerlin at that point. I don't.
But I feel like we just
Any
covered in our
Aja
first time
would've-
reader show her POV saying that she always thought
Yeah.
she would end up green.
Yeah.
Yeah, she would end up green, but
Oh,
she
okay.
didn't because
I mean,
she
she
became
was-
the Aes Sedai. She became the
Yeah.
Emerlin from Accepted, so she was not
Yeah.
formally. Ever
Aren't
in
all the
Aja.
colors together just black?
No, white.
No,
When she was pretending to be Aes Sedai with the wise one, she told him she was Green Aja.
She did tell them that when she.
I
But
think
Mhm.
green, red, and yellow, or is it green, red, and blue that make brown? But yeah, all the colors together is white.
But which doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense to me because I would merge all the colors and it would just turn into like a dark mess.
The
Brother
messy
Dan, can you explain to me why white is all the colors and black is the absence of colors? Go.
Yeah, no, because it's a weird scientific phenomenon where it's linguistics. You are right, Ryan. All the colors mixed together are black. But if you are to say that what is reflected back to our cones and our retinas and our irises
And our
and all that
rods
shit
And our
is
A-Rods?
white, that means that it is everything. All colors are being absorbed into there except for white. So it is all colors. However, if you and I are trying to make black, we're mixing everything together, and that's what it is.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I think
Right,
it goes
yes,
the other way
that's
too. I
fine.
think white
Well
White.
done.
refracted creates all the
Yeah.
colors, but not necessarily all the colors together. Just kind of create mud, really.
I mean, you could say that the sky is everything but blue, and my grass is everything but green, and
Saying that.
I'm with Jay Diggity.
see, no, black is all color, but
I
I guess. Yeah. Fuck. Anyways,
It
we're not.
depends
That's
on it.
right.
Okay,
We're not here for that.
it depends on whether you're talking about light waves or if you're actually talking about pigment.
Mm.
There's two separate mediums.
Pigment's what our eyes see, and light rays are what is in actuality happening.
I believe so.
Okay.
I don't know.
So
Well done,
green.
Brother Dan.
Brother
Yes.
Dan killed it. I'm just trying to help him out.
Cones, guys. We
Rods
have
and cones, baby. Rods
We
and
got
cones.
rods and cones, like deep in our balls.
Just trying to
And
help
our
him
head
pump it out,
balls.
brother.
Our head
Thank
balls.
Our head balls. Our jelly head balls.
All right, so we have 3 Ajahs left: yellow and blue and green. Where should we start?
Let's start with blue. Is that cool?
Blue, yeah, that works.
Blue
That works.
is the first that we know of. And within the
Yeah.
first books, it seems that blue is the majority. It's like the prominent Aja that we know as readers. We later find out that blue is probably third most, second or third, but it is not the most populated. But since Moraine is blue, I think a lot of people have a fondness generally for blue, but blue seems to have a vagueness to it. It's just causes or causes, I guess. If that's what it is, right? Special causes. You just pick your. It's like when there's celebrities playing Wheel of Fortune, and they're like, "Hey, what's your special cause?" They all become Blue Aja right then when they're donating $50,000 to the Humane Society.
I can see where picking a vowel makes you a Blue Aja for sure. Fucking.
In New Spring is I would believe the book where we get a really, really, really nice and in-depth look at some of the inner workings of the Blue Aja. We get a lot of inner workings of all the Ajahs in New Spring, especially because you get it through the view of an accepted who gets to go see different ones.
Mhm.
But I love I actually, some of my favorite reading in all the series is in the White Tower. Because you get to see so many different kinds of machinations, as I'm quoting that word, but inside the White Tower, and we get to see so many ways that the Ajahs work. But what I always found it interesting about the blue is that at the core, we heard some of them from their own mouths say that they were their own causes. But the only real cause that I saw the Blue Aja taking as a whole was pretty much the eyes and ears.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They have the most, or the largest or most vast network of eyes and ears.
Yeah.
And according to the wiki here, it says they're involved in justice, noble causes, and in general, quote, saving the world, unquote.
Wow.
Yeah. With not
so deep state? Sorry.
Well, I don't know about deep state, but
No, go ahead. Yeah, what were you saying?
who, me?
Yeah, or anyone.
I was just saying that I didn't really get many causes from them.
Mhm.
Like we got a lot of stuff about the eyes and ears and who cared, who was in charge of the eyes and ears, the secrets and all that stuff. We never got a real, besides what Moraine was doing in Swan, we never got another like real big cause.
You're right, Jansen.
Mhm.
That's a great point.
Yeah, I
What
think
other causes do you think they were doing though?
I think didn't Swan say that when she was talking to Gareth Bryn that there was a reference to some king they were trying to kind of set up in Mirandi, and
Not
then
a king,
or
a lord.
a leader, lord, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the only other time that I kind of was like, oh, that seemed to be a focus, but I think you're right. There wasn't really any other mention of like, and then we all got together and did this thing.
Yeah.
I would like to put a new spin on the Blue Aja. And everybody's saying, oh, they fight for causes and whatnot. I would like to put forth that the Blue Aja is CIA.
Well,
okay. Or NSA
or whatever. They are the government entity that sneaks in and takes care of shit.
Well, let's take this a tiny bit darker if we can. Would they be like the militiamen? Would they be the like the 1%, the nationalists and the race? Like, is the head of the racist a Blue Aja?
No, I think what I'm saying is they are covert in what they do. That's what I'm looking at. They're try to replace a leader here and there, whatever, but they have the most interconnected network of intelligence. They work independently a lot, and they're extremely covert about what they do. So much so that in some places, Moraine isn't even known as Moraine. She has complete aliases that she lives as in those areas.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
What is our overall thought about the Blue Aja? I mean, they do have spies everywhere, and I guess it is for their. But again, if you whatever's noble to you may not be noble to someone else per se. Saving the world could take drastic measures that some others might not think. I'm just thinking in terms of like right-wing kind of actions in per se. Are the Bushes, are they Blue Aja for invading Iraq and such?
No. No. I think the one thing you guys have to remember is we talked about this the last week or the week before, is that we're seeing the world from the purview for a very specific reason right now, correct? With saving the world, Tarman Gaiden, everything's revolving around Rand and company. So just because we aren't privy to in the books what other causes the Blue Aja had doesn't mean that they weren't active and weren't busy.
No, I hear that.
And
you're right.
Right. But what I'm saying is though, like if I was an Aes Sedai, I would identify with blue. And it's not just about like being covert. It's about fact finding. It's about disseminating information that you receive to get a bigger picture. I was in military intelligence when I was in the army.
And creating counterintelligence.
Well,
to deceive people.
Aes Sedai Ajahs did that though. They all were guilty of doing that.
Yeah, but not to the. I don't think to the extent of the blue. I think
because
the blue were the
Blues
best.
were more integrated in the world than any other Aja. The blue were more interested in what was happening in the world around them, outside of any other Aja. Every other Aja had their own reasons for studying, for forwarding agenda, for mediation, for law enforcement. The Blues were the most adept, and their mission was fact-finding throughout the world. There's a reason why so many Blues became Amyrlin, right? There's a reason why. I mean,
let's talk about that. Let's talk about what is that reason?
Because I think that the Blues, one of their biggest traits was their political savviness.
And their information, the fact that they knew more than everybody else.
But it doesn't necessarily mean political. That's the thing.
No,
we have
exactly.
to take the word political out of it.
Well, they were good. Well, I'm saying they were good as rulers. So
it's the other side of diplomacy. The Greys were the face of the diplomacy, whereas the Blues were the people. So, like when I was in military intelligence, right? I had a top secret clearance. My job was to compile parts of one portion of a segment of all of the information that somebody higher than me would get information from a different section, and then they would put it all together to get the big picture, right? That's what basically what the Blue Aja did was they were collecting information from all different pertinent parts and making the big picture. That's why they had the quote unquote spy network. That's why they, you know what I mean? And I think it's because the Blues were most involved with the outside world than any other Aja, other than for going out and finding men who could channel or going out and acting as a mediator for you know, whatever kingdom or anything. So the Blues were the boots on the ground for the Aes Sedai, so to speak.
All right,
Beth, with that said, go ahead.
Beth, you're making me so happy right now.
Well,
because you're going off, and I love it because your voice is strong, and I believe everything you're saying.
Okay,
you are a Blue Aja right now. Be a blue the entire show. Just go for it.
I 100% agree with 100% agree with Beth. We were both in the same field in the military, and
were you a cunning linguist though?
I was all of that. I had my linguistics. I also had my clearances, and I was.
Were you a 98 Charlie or a 98 Golf?
I was a what branch? You talking Army or
Army? Yeah.
I think they.
What did you do?
We were 35. I was counterintelligence. We were 35.
Oh, you were. Oh, yeah. You're the. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. We're the ones who didn't wear uniform. Yeah. That's us.
Yeah.
Wait. Are you Beth? Are you realizing why you hate him or why you love him? I can't tell.
I love Tavern.
Oh, okay. Great.
I love Tavern.
I knew we were having a moment there.
Tavern basically works with psyops and is a propagandist, though.
Why are you telling my shit out there? No.
So, all right, let me. All right,
I think
hold on,
Tavern had
before
a
we
point.
get
Tavern
carried
had a
away.
point.
Yeah, before we get carried away.
Sorry.
So you're correctly right. They had the big picture information. What I'm coming at with the blue is, what did they do with that information? They didn't share it with everybody. That's for goddamn sure. So that's where the intelligence aspect comes in,
Fair.
right? They not only were the intelligence gathering group, they were also the disseminators of a lot of that information, and they kept a lot of that information.
They also had leaves that they kept, like tools that they kept that they didn't tell anyone else about.
But every Aja does that.
True.
Every Aja does that, though.
Didn't Megan? Didn't Mike? I want to say the name right. Megan say in the books that they were looking into rumors out west of either an invading army or something.
That was from the show.
I know they said it on the show that it was the invading army, but in the books, I believe there was a slight mention of we're not getting information from the west, or information from the west has stopped, or something to that effect, which means that they were tracking that. And that's how they interpreted it on the show.
Maybe.
Interesting.
They do mention what's happening in the West early. They do mention it.
Yeah. So Nomagarn says that not sharing information is another Ishi influence.
Do
you think that is one of the? Can we blame Ishamael for like the fracturing, even with blues on blue? Right, like the blues are not sharing information with each other.
I mean, technically, we can blame the blues. We can blame Ishi for everything if we want to. I mean, we really can, right? If there's going to be a fall guy for the shit that's gone wrong in the world since the breaking, every 1,000 years, we can just throw it at Ishi's feet and say, "Fuck you, asshole."
So we're just going to say the blue works for Ishi. We'll just call it Lishy. No, that's not what we're saying.
No.
I thought I was just helping out. I was going to jump on board.
No. But I mean, like, so explain to me, like, how that would be even the case. How would Ishi be responsible for everyone like holding on to secrets? Is it because he infiltrated them with the Black Aja? But I thought the Black Aja was more Masama.
All the Black Aja knew everyone's secrets.
I knew it. God. We're talking about the Black Aja.
Right, the Black Aja shared information, right?
We couldn't make it 30 minutes.
How many freaking minutes is that?
5 and 1, baby. 1 and 5.
All right, so guys, this is actually really fascinating.
Here. Yeah.
No, listen. The way Ishi could have influenced. All right, so we know that the White Tower was influenced by the Forsaken, at least a couple of them in different ways, right? And what's to say that Ishi couldn't have? He could have 100%. I mean, he's known as the father of lies, so it could easily turn Blue Aja Aes Sedai into not trusting anything they hear and then verifying on their own, right? Because anything could be a lie.
Yeah.
And so they double check and triple check everything they do, which is why their spy network is probably larger than the rest.
All right, so let me ask, and I'm going to put you into this, mistress. So we have the Blue Aja, to me, are essentially battle Aja that aren't polygamist.
That aren't what?
that
polygamous?
that don't have more than one
They're
woman.
not polyamorous?
Yeah.
You mean polyamorous?
Polygamous is a whole different thing.
Polygamy is different than polyamory.
That's a very funny slip up, Dan.
Yeah. Anyways, I mean, what kind of is the difference, I guess, between the numbered warders? Besides
between polygamy and polyamory? Toby can tell you very concisely.
Listen, if we're
I
going to
get it all out, I'll wait.
If she's going to do that, zoom her back out.
I mean, arguably, they're not necessarily all polyamorous. They're ethically non-monogamous.
Non-monogamy works too. That's another good word. Yeah.
I dig it.
All right. Let's move on then.
Is there actually a question?
No, it was.
There's a question.
Yeah, that's all right. I guess the question was, what besides the number of warders, what kind of is the difference between the blue and the green, especially when the one blue that we're focusing on is so focused on Tarmogoyf and the Dragon Reborn and the last battle. She is essentially, her focus is the last battle. She's working with the Dragon Reborn. To me, she is kind of a green, except for she only has one more.
I mean, yeah, I think that Moraine embodies a lot of the positive aspects of the greens in terms of like being willing to go out there and like be on the front lines, and that's not necessarily true of all of the blue Aja per se. Like we don't know what they're all doing, but you know, is that partially special treatment that she gets, like a loose leash she gets from Swan that allows her to kind of put herself in these very dangerous situations, even though she's not battle Aja? I don't know.
I think one way you can look at the difference between a green and blue are asking the question of why did the pattern choose Moraine and Swan to carry the load of what they did? And I think that alone can say that I think one of the big differences is that greens share the trait of a lack of patience and hot-headedness.
I am not a patient person.
From a military from a military perspective, right? The difference between the greens and blues, although they're all fighting for the same end goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully.
Greens, as you can see or from reading in the books, they're the grunt. I mean, I hate to say it like this. They're kind of like the grunts. They're the ones that have prepared.
They're the 11 Bravos.
Yeah. They're the ones that have prepared for battle, right? Whereas the blue are the ones that have collected the information that will allow them to fight the battle intelligently.
And the blue patient as whites. I mean, consider how much patience Moraine and Swan had to have.
Oh my god.
20 years. Yeah.
20 freaking years.
Yes, for Lan and Moraine were going around like census workers.
But for every Moraine, how many blue Aja sister was like starting a compost fucking garden?
Well, think about some of the other blues, like Anaya.
And just or recycling a lot, like doing just weird stuff that isn't like we're seeing like Moraine. We're not seeing
so
mundane.
let's talk about like Cabriana.
What is she?
Who was a blue?
Okay.
Cabriana was a blue who got tortured and killed by Semirog for her knowledge of the world. And it was because of the information that Cabriana Mercandus gave to Semirog that Arengar was able to go. Was it Arengar or Oscar? I get those two confused.
Yeah.
Halima was able to go in to Saladar with all of the information saying that she had been friends with Cabriana. She had been one of her informants, whatever, and was able to fully infiltrate into the rebel Aes Sedai because of that.
So Cabriana was a failure.
Cabriana got tortured. Oh my God, Ryan.
No, I'm like Trump. I like Aes Sedai who are not captured.
But what was Cabriana's like goal? What was her blue Aja focus?
We don't know, but that's the thing, though. You guys are putting emphasis into things that don't matter.
Yeah, because
you're putting emphasis into things that don't impact the
story.
We're talking about the Aja in general.
Yeah, but we're covering very specific. We're talking about very specific Aja, or I'm sorry, Aes Sedai within certain Ajas, right? So we know vaguely what the blue was about, but we have a lot of Moraine perspective. We have a lot of Swan perspective,
right?
You know, and other very specific blues that are very specific to the overall goal of the story. If you look at the Browns, we have Varen. We know all of this stuff about Varen. What do we know about a lot of the other Browns? They were studying Terangriel and Cyangril and other stuff.
They have like
honestly, though,
you don't even know that about the blues.
Okay, but so this is the thing. This is Swan still ran the spy network for the entire rebel thing, because think about when in New Spring, right after Swan and Moraine were raised, one of the sitters realized that Swan had a knack for puzzles and had a knack for solving things, so she was instantly taken to the side to learn to become like a problem solver, a cipher expert, cryptography expert, and she was never able to leave the White Tower. That her knack for being able to do those things is what kept her from being able to leave the White Tower with Moraine to go in search of Rand. The two of them would have absolutely done that together if that hadn't been Swan's like niche. And because of that is, but look at how masterfully she pulled the strings of all of the other Aes Sedai, even when she didn't have any power. When she was, after she was gentle, or after she was stilled, she was in there. She went in with this ruse. She totally set the thing for her going to become the Amyrlin up. Like she was a puppet master of puppet masters. And that in essence is the epitome of what the Blue Ajah will do with their information that they gather. That doesn't mean that they're nefarious or that they're looking to, circumvent what's naturally going to happen in the world, but they are more in touch with all elements. They have more knowledge gathered other than any of the other Ajahs. And even though they were the smallest Ajah besides the White, I think, they made the most impact on the world than any of the other Ajahs.
Which I mean, they totally manipulated what went on around them. They tried to take control of Rand. I mean, they weren't letting nature take its course. I know, but they weren't taking.
Every Ajah tried to take control of Rand.
I don't think they were letting the world take its own course, nature take its course. They were trying to manipulate it.
But look at the way Moraine ended. No, because look at the way Moraine ended up treating Rand when she after she got back from Meridian. How did Moraine treat Rand? Because Moraine knew how
he wouldn't listen to her otherwise. She had to shift gears.
So she adapted to the circumstance. She
Very
adapted,
CIA.
which is what Aes Sedai or what the Blue Ajah does, and it's not very CIA. You guys make it seem like there's spies embedded into every Ajah had.
Every
Ajah had eyes and ears.
Yeah, but they were the best at it.
So good for them.
It's
All right,
like
so
saying
here's a question.
CIA
Here's
and
a question.
the FBI are the same. They're not.
All right, so I believe it was Tavern said, okay, is the Blue Ajahs are there to give information to the Green so that the Green are successful in battle.
To everybody, but yeah.
Is there any evidence of that happening?
All right, I'm ready. I'm ready to jump in. You ready for this?
Sorry, I'll shut up for the rest of the show.
No, it's fine. You shut up. Great.
No, don't ever shut up ever. You're the best.
That we have to look at this.
I got my blue ice and ears disguise on.
I think we have to look at this over like a historical period. We're talking about
Please.
a 3,000-year period here, right?
Yep.
It's 3,000 years ago. What do we have?
Trolloc Wars.
Trolloc Wars.
The breaking.
Who the fuck kicked ass in Trolloc Wars? The Green Ajah and their warders. Took down the Dreadlords, helped end the Trolloc Wars. 3,000 years ago, they were badasses. And then the Trollocs got pushed to the Blight, got pushed to the margins. Most people don't even believe in them, right? And what do we see in the show the first time we see a great general encounter an Aes Sedai? I can read the script. I pulled up the transcript.
Joe, go for it. Go.
Yeah. Bring the receipts. Come on.
When Moraine goes to Faldara, before she even opens her mouth, Lord Agomar is coming at her. Well, I appreciate your concern. Faldara always has and always will be able to protect its own. Moraine, my lord, I can assure you that neither I nor any Aes Sedai doubt your ability to keep the Blight at bay, which they have not been doing because the Blight has been spreading, as we know. Agomar, I should hope not. We have guarded the Tarwin's Gap for thousands of years and fought off armies of Trollocs that would make even an Aes Sedai blanch. I appreciate you making the trek to Borderlands, but I fear you may have done so in vain. So the first time we see even the potential of an Aes Sedai coming to help with these battles that they're supposedly ignoring, they are shut down before they can even say a word.
They're not trusted.
But wait a second. Isn't that
Well, she's blue.
That's from the show.
She's from the
She's an
show.
Aes Sedai.
Yeah, that's from the show. She said it was from the show.
So imagine a green coming. And they're thinking, oh, now they sent the green because they think we can't handle this. People have a short memory. It's been 3,000 years since they remember the Green Ajah kicking ass, protecting everybody. And now it's like, oh, they're just meddling. Now the tower is no longer a protector of all. It's this conglomerate, bureaucracy that is meddling in all the world affairs. We're going to send our green army over to help you? Fuck no. You're not going to get in the way of my army. I can protect my own.
Well, all right. I think that there should have been a green presence along the borderlands the entire time. I mean, if they are the Battle Aja, and that's where you have look at where North Korea and South Korea is. They got Aes Sedai lined up on both sides of the wall, just waiting. They got the
Aes Sedai zone. Is that where? Is that where the Aes Sedai zone? The Aes Sedai zone.
Before we get into the green, I do have one final question about the blue. The leader of the blue Aja, and let me ask you, Dead Swain. The leader of the blue Aja is referred to as the first selector. What do you think that comes from?
Ooh. Well, I guess if you're thinking about armies and selection, you think about drafting and stuff like that. So maybe they're like the first, the one who like kind of picks out potential greens in novices and accepted to.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is for the blue. We're
in the blue. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Before we went to the green, I was like, last
green
Captain General.
So the blue, the leader of the blue is called the first selector. Does anyone? I guess.
Yeah. So maybe then the first selector is. So my thoughts were kind of like, remember, was it last episode or the one before, we talked about how when the White Tower was being formed, there were Ajahs like little a that, eventually became the Ajahs big A. And so the Ajahs little a were individual causes. And I feel like that theory or that concept trickled down into the blue Aja causes. Like they were Ajahs that sort of became the Aja. So the Aja of causes. And so I think maybe the first selector was probably the one who was able to channel or to funnel those causes into like which ones the blues would actually pursue.
I mean, I agree, and 100% agree with that. That they're the one. She's the one that is the first one to be able to say, okay, yes, we're going to look at this, we're going to look at that. But my big gap in that whole thing is that they didn't know what Moraine was doing at all.
Well, yeah. So within, I mean, I also think we touched on it with what we've been talking about already in the Blue Aja. There's secrets within secrets, but I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think also you can directly trace that back to Tamra, and Gitara, who basically were like, oh shit, the Dragon's reborn, and we have not done anything to sort of prepare the White Tower for this. So be quiet. You're going to go hunt him. You're going to go find him for me, but we're not going to talk about this to anybody. And then Tamra, who was blue, but also Amelin, then kind of went to the eldest Aes Sedai in the tower at that time. You had Maylin and Karenni and all these other ones that ended up dying because of the Black Aja. But she basically went to them and was kind of like, and this is what we're doing. We're hunting. I absolutely lost my point in that, so I hope that helps.
That was a very, very great.
Anyone else for the first selector? Go ahead, Jensen.
So I thought for a while about what that would really mean, and I thought about all of the blues that we met through all the books, from Tamra to Gitara to Swan to Moraine, even to Anya Sedai. The thing that I believe that reason they call them the first selectors is because they select the jobs or tasks that people need to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And every single thing that we saw them, they were actually delegating that this is what this person needs to do. And I think that is what the first selector does. And I think that's like when a new recruit comes to the blue, they have that meeting with the first selector. And then the first selector decides what they're going to do. We saw this in New Spring, and I believe that Swan was selected to be the eyes and ears and to go along that political stream. And Moraine, if you don't, you got to remember, was selected to be the next Queen of Caria.
Yeah.
And she left. So I think
Yep.
that's what the selector is. I think she selects the job or the task for each person to do. And I think that even Blues, that is the core of what they all were doing, was getting people in position to do what they were supposed to do, or at least what they thought they were supposed to do.
Yep. The director of the Blue IA.
No, I do with that. I do agree with that. I don't think they're the CIA. I just think that, like the CIA, when you have those kinds of powers, that certain things start to happen. Like the fact that they understood that if we have one of ours in the antler and seat position, then we can get this job done and this job done.
Oh, yeah.
This job.
It's all about
Guys, is the idea of reading the pattern, is that an actual skill that can be developed, or is that kind of hogwash?
I think
reading the pattern. I mean, seeing as the pattern is cyclical.
we can see it a bunch of different times.
Yeah. So you have data.
No,
It's
I
on
know
history
we've
books.
seen a lot of POVs thinking that they're reading the pattern, but are they actually reading the pattern, or are they just trying to?
I think they are.
Okay. Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
I think that we see it a lot in the quote unquote superstitious Shanshan. I mean, it's because some of the things that they see are things that men sees as well. And if you remember, the Tuon can understand men's viewings better than she can.
Yeah. Yeah. So like Min is a data analyst that hasn't been trained, whereas Tuon is like an expert at Excel and all that other shit. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No,
And-
I mean 100%. Yeah.
And Maureen is a female blue investigator, or FBI.
And so, okay, so I said this in one of our shows way back when, so I don't know if you remember this or not. And I think I've said it on one of my shows. Like I said, the pattern is cyclical. We know that things happen over and over and over again. They may not happen the exact same way, but they do happen over and over. To include the Queen of Manetheren totally exerting herself, pulling in way too much power to take out an entire army, which is like mirrored with what, spoilers, with Egwene, right? Burning herself out, doing something. So Egwene, to me, is, I can't remember her name, so help me, Jensen, the Queen of Manetheren.
Eldrin.
Eldred.
All right, to me, Egwene is the present day Eldrin. And so there are characters in the story that mirror and mimic things that happened in the past. Why? Because it's all a cycle.
She did pull in the string. You're right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
She blew that whole city up.
She
I also
went
think that
pop-
there's
Oh, sorry.
I think that there's people in the world too who, because what you're saying is true, everything is cyclical, and you see this in different characters who can kind of even in the Two Rivers, you know, they're like, when they hear the old tongue, they're kind of like, I think I should understand this, but I don't. And so you have these people, these regular people who don't have maybe Min's talent or the Shanchan's, you know, lots of experience to interpret the omens. You do have people who can kind of put their finger on the pulse of the pattern. Like I think Moraine might be someone like that, who can kind of like look at the world and see the goings on of the world and be able to kind of put a finger on the pulse of it and read the pattern, you know, to kind of like figure out where she should go or what she should be involved in.
Yeah.
Let's move from the blues to the greens. They are within the tower. They are besties. Blues and greens love each other. Blues hate reds, but blues and greens have always been best friends. The leader of the green is appropriately called the Captain General. The Captain General, if I'm not mistaken, Beth and Tavern is like the highest general, is in charge of the army. Right?
That was Adalorna. Yes.
That's Lord of Esteem.
Yeah.
Now,
He's talking
but
about the
you
rank.
have to remember also,
No, he's talking about the rank, not who the person was.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
Just
Yeah.
the rank in general. Captain
Yeah, I
General.
mean,
the
go ahead,
blues-
Jensen.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Go.
No, some of the greens at the end started siding with the red.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but historically they hit. In fact, the Blues were not even allowed to wear red clothing around the tower. They could wear red jewelry, but not red clothing. It was part of like their shit. Also, the sixth sister that greets you with a kiss when you're first inaugurated, you got to bake them a pie. Weird stuff. It's a weird fraternity. It's fun. But the greens are different. Go ahead.
So to go back to your question about the rank, right?
Uh-huh.
I mean, it makes sense that that's the rank for the highest member of the Green Ajah due to the fact that they're the battle Ajah. They're the most militaristic. So it makes complete sense. And again, it comes down to breaking it down into departments, like we talked about, like college on a college campus, right? The chemistry or the medical department, the law department, the whatever archaeology department. So it makes sense. So that they would have that rank. In the real military, just for edification, there are 4 levels of general, brigadier, major, lieutenant, and then general. And it's easy to remember by "Be My Little General."
So there in Spain, it says in here that in Spain the leader is called the Captain General. So I guess
I was not in the Spanish military.
Yeah, I was wondering if it was the same.
I don't know all of them.
Well, one of the other tasks of the Green that we see throughout the entire series is that they are chosen on tasks or expeditions.
Somebody's keyboard is really clicking really loud.
Oh, it's me. Sorry.
It's like, sorry.
She's typing out responses, ready to go for the Green.
My mic is right down
ready.
there.
I'm so sorry, Jansen. I apologize.
Don't
Don't apologize, Dovey. You're beautiful. You're gorgeous, just the way you are. Sorry.
Yeah, no, we see a lot of expeditions. We see some of Tamara Spinia picking Greens in their orders from the very beginning. Most of those ended up dead. But then we even see, what are the two?
Karuna?
Nachiman?
Yeah, Karuna and Vera. Vera Harkin.
Vera Harkin. We see both of them go towards the Eel Waste, being sent from Saladar, even though we know they don't end up being there. We end up attaching themselves to Aaron right before Shemai left. But we see the Greens going on adventures. We see now, one of the more famous Greens in the series is Alana, who I actually believe was black. We see her attaching herself to Aaron, but I do kind of think that might be because they were in each other's heart.
Wait, you mean like black as in Black Ajah?
Yeah, I believe that they might have been.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't think Alana was black because they would have. Egwene knew Alana, and Egwene. There would have been something in Egwene's dialogue about Alana being black.
No, about her not about the same. What she said, she didn't trust Varen and she didn't trust Alana.
I know, but what I'm saying is, after she found out who the black were, I think in Egwene's point of view, we would have seen that Alana was black, and we never do.
That is a fantastic point.
I just think that Alana was a loose end that Brandon Sanderson didn't do a really good job of cleaning up.
No, I didn't even consider that. That's a fantastic point. You're right.
Well, so the Green Ajah, they were not initially the Battle Ajah. That was a moniker that was appointed to them after the Trolloc Wars. But the Green Ajah holds itself ready for Tarmangaiden for the final battle. And as a result, and Dovey, you can jump in here, in the 3,000 years where there's been kind of not a whole lot of Tarmangaiden going on, there's not a whole lot that the Greens have been doing. We see that the Ashaman, as soon as the Ashaman,
I've been doing a lot, Dan.
What's the Ashaman? Yeah,
Nobody's about to stab
you. Know how much work it is to organize an orgy?
I do.
How many many wigs
No
are
one
involved
here
in that?
is questioning
what I
this
wanna know.
truth.
How many what?
How many wigs are involved in that?
Oh,
It depends. Yeah, it depends. That
Eventually
depends.
none.
Depends on the number of guests and the theme, I guess.
yeah.
Brother Dan, I think Matt Stagger is kind of like mirroring what you said. Matt Stagger says, my issue with the green is why the fuck haven't they been training in the Borderlands? Shows a lack of serious lack of leadership and training.
I
We
can
see
answer
it play
that.
out with this Shan attack.
I can kind of answer that. Even in modern day military, a lot of training does not happen where you need to train.
Mhm.
Unfortunately.
But they did have a.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry to jump in.
Nope, you're good.
We were talking about Karuna Notchaman, and her brother was King Peter Notchaman, and I think they had a green. He had a green Aja advisor, so they
All
were
the
out there.
They all had.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the green Aja was out there, and even to your point that they might not have been physically training, in the field per se. They did have their feelers and their intelligence out there in the high levels of government.
All right, I want to give Dovia a chance to.
We see Moraine actually fighting Shadow Spawn Trollocs in the White Tower in her graduation, and she mentions it to Lan actually when they meet, and she says, "You'd be surprised where Aes Sedai can find Shadow Spawn." That was So yeah, we see that happen a lot. So maybe they found other ways to fight Shadow Spawn. Who knows?
So, Mr. Stovey, everyone's complaining that the Green Aja shot their own dicks off when the Shanshan attacked the White Tower.
Jesus.
What do you have to say about that?
About the attack on the White Tower? That's a good question. I one thought on the Green Aja is that it did have a lot of Black sisters, so it could be that there was internal sabotage on some of this stuff. So I don't know.
The blame issue.
Yeah, blame issue.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you're gonna usurp an institution that's against you,
Yeah,
the ones that can do the damage would probably be the right one.
yeah. They had I think they had the highest proportion of Black Aja. So whether or not they were, willingly serving the dark, whether they were forced against their will, like Varen, whether they came to the tower specifically to infiltrate the Green Aja and hamstring it, who knows? But we know that that's an issue. I had something else, but you talked about the shotgun.
You know what? When I think about military, like people in the military, I think that there is camaraderie, but there's also the propensity for secret organizations and sub families within your larger family. Like you'll have like tattoos. You're like, I'm part of this thing.
Like you mean like units?
No, he's talking more like cliques. I mean, that's more of a cliquey thing. In the military, we do have separation or compartmentalization.
Yes, absolutely.
Of things. What you're getting at would be the relationship. I think. Is he frozen or is he just really good at standing still?
He's frozen.
No, Dan.
No,
I was
brother.
like, fuck, that's some
Frozen.
friggin' puppet control right there.
I
Jesus.
think he was confusing his time in jail for the military.
So the closest thing to that I think would be the Marine Corps and the Navy, right? They are both department. They are both Navy. They both are a department of the Navy, but the Marines are their own thing, and they have their own intelligence group, and they have their own. Hey. Let's not.
All right. Dovey, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but Janie Wright says, I guess I always assumed the Aes Sedai were learning a lot from the Warders. Look how much Moraine learned from Lan. Wouldn't a Green have been interested in learning more?
I don't know.
She's saying the Greens are incurious.
So the Greens did not want to be in the tower. They viewed being stuck in the tower as like a punishment. And as much as we know about the Aes Sedai wanting to be in the ear of leaders and wanting to be out there and involved, I think it's safe to assume that if they're not, at the side of these great generals, it's not their choice. It's the choice of these people, these leaders, military or otherwise, choosing not to have an Aes Sedai advisor.
Yeah, I found it interesting that none of the great captains, with obviously Pedro Nile excluded, didn't have green Aes Sedai either advisors or anything like that, because they were the great captains. Like, you know, and I guess that goes with the hubris of the Aes Sedai, not thinking that they could learn from anyone. But you would think that they would be attached at the hip to guys like that.
To the warders?
No, just the great captains themselves.
Oh,
The great captains should have had like 3 green Aja on staff at all time. They didn't. You're like, do you really think that was the choice of the Aes Sedai? You think they'd rather sit around the tower than go out and like blast Trollocs? Come on.
I give you the hubris thing 100% because they're absolutely 100%. Most Aes Sedai are arrogant, right? Because they have power that others don't. Now they're very. What was that? I saw a face. They're very cognizant of that, though, which is good. And so they try to curb that by placing, they have the rules in place. Now they have the 3 oaths, of course, which was kind of put upon them. But for the most part, they don't go around abusing their shit, right? But they are arrogant in that they think that their power is going to be enough. Somebody was, I think Janie was talking about why wouldn't they want to learn from their warders? And although greens form, like we know this, greens form relationships with their warders. Most other Aes Sedai, their warders are like tools for them. They're like shields for them in battle, right? So while they're doing their thing, this guy is going to dance and try to keep arrows from hitting me and shit, right? And that's why I don't think they learn from warders, because they're tools. They're not. I mean, there's nothing which is weird, because you would think that they should learn how to fight with a sword, which is why I love the whole Nynaeve arc in the show. You would think that they would want to learn just in case they don't have powers. We saw what happened on the show with Moraine and some of the Aes Sedai in the books that get stilled. You would think they would want to learn that.
You're making an assumption that the warders would allow them to train with them.
No. You're absolutely right. It kind of goes both ways. But what I'm saying, the question was, why won't they want to learn from their warders? Where is
this assumption coming from that they don't want to learn from their warders?
It was in the chat.
I know. I still don't understand that comment. Like, what do they not?
No, they sit around drinking spiced tea, freaking watching all the hot dudes with no shirts on gather up a sweat, hitting each other with bundled up sticks. And then they go and get water. Yeah, no, that's what I'm totally with you. Like, that's all they're doing. They're just like drool. They're like, hey, thirst time. Hey, you going to the thing? Oh, I wouldn't miss it. Let's go.
Did you see how they tried to correct that on the show, though?
That's what I was saying. I actually liked the interaction between the 2 warders with Alana. Even when they were in, talking to people, they were all interacting with each other because their feelings were all,
they're intertwined.
That was cool.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah, but Maxim had said that to Lando, that they had kind of come to that arrangement based on the dynamic between the 3 of them. So I don't know if that is something that is true to the Greens in the show, or if that was something that particular.
I think it's unique to them. It's unique to them. What I was talking, everybody keeps saying, "Oh, the Greens, they kind of go watch the warders, sweat it and shirtless and stuff." That's great. And like I said, I loved how they addressed that on the show when Nynaeve comes looking for Maxim and them, and that one warder comes up to her. Warders were just as bad at looking at Aes Sedai and trying to find one that they could, I wouldn't say hook up with, but connect with or get bonded to. So it kind of went back and forth. We just don't see that much in the books. In the books, it just seems like they're passing a warder from one to the other is rare. But again, it's a tool.
Well, and remember that there's not a lot of Aes Sedai in the White Tower. When you think about numbers, they themselves are also saying, even though they, discounting the novices and the accepted, the full sisters, are pretty dismal in terms of numbers. When they find how many Yeah, like how many sisters, how many women are in the kin, or how many women can channel in the Aiel, wise ones and whatever. They're gobsmacked because they're just kind of like, it's impossible. There can't be that many. That's twice the amount of people that are in the tower who can channel. So I think the Warders too are eager to be bonded, because they're there to learn how to fight, and they're specifically there to be bonded by an Aes Sedai, of which there are not very many. So I think you're right that I did enjoy that when Nynaeve kind of came into the courtyard, and it was kind of like, what? Get her.
No, it was. I thought it was really cool. I enjoyed that part.
I also, if
So-
I could just
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah.
What was I saying? I think we touched on when the Seanchan attacked the tower, and we were saying the Green Aja seemed to be a little bit not effective. And I wonder if the Green Aja is what they're battling, even in the Trolloc Wars and beyond, are creatures that don't have the ability to channel. So they're battling, Trollocs, they're battling Murdral, Drakkar, Dark Friends, whatever they're battling. So now suddenly they're put in touch with Damane, who are the most fearsome with battle weaves and whatever. So I think even with the training that the Green Aja had, they weren't necessarily prepared to go one-on-one with, an army of channelers who were throwing the one power at them. And it wasn't just fireballs and lightning. Like they had all kinds of, Damane weaves that they could throw at them. So I think that might have been a factor too, where the Green Aja was just like, what the fuck? And
it's probably been 1,000 to 2,000 years since they fought
Yeah.
someone that's channeling at them.
Yeah, and then you
One of
have
them
the
that's alive has literally never fought another channeler, probably.
Mhm.
and the Seanchan who are constantly at war,
Right.
right? So they have practice. It's what it comes down to. They've been practicing and actually doing the fighting as they come
As
across.
the Sharans.
Huh?
As
Oh
the
yeah.
Sharans.
And the Sharans,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
their leadership was fractured, which is why Egwene was so powerful in that moment.
So I've been thinking about the Black Aja and in regards to this Green Aja, right? So the Black Aja, I think for a long time was just kind of like this kind of edgy, cool club, right? There wasn't a whole lot and I think that, and when I mentioned like soldiers and like military, like that seems like a lot of like Hell's Angels and biker gang dudes are like, used to be in the military. They like to ride like on the outer end. They like to kind of be a little outlaw. And to me, that was like the Black Aja until shit got really real and the Dark One stirred. But when the Dark One was stirring, I could see that most of the black were actually of the green, correct?
Yeah, I can't disagree with that, man.
Get your pattern run and turn it.
The POV of I think it's Shiriam, right before Masana comes into the tent, she says to herself, she maybe she wished she hadn't gone to the black, but every Aes Sedai wanted to get by, but she had no intention of being in some fight with the Dragon Reborn. She said basically what you just said. So I mean, you're right.
I would also like to point out that there are 2 Blue Aja that know for certain that the last battle is coming. And did they give the Greens even a fucking clue? They could have had 20 years to prepare.
That's a good point.
Like a lot of said, like I didn't think it was going to happen in my lifetime. Fucking Swan and Moraine knew and didn't fucking tell them. And then everyone's like, wow, Greens, way to fucking be prepared. Like,
Right.
why didn't you tell us this 20 years
Like
ago?
what? We've been looking at Warders for years. What do you mean?
Well, think about it though. Nobody believed that the Black Aja existed, right?
Yeah.
Moraine kept that
Well,
shit
then-
secret for 20 years. She knew, so she didn't know who to trust. She couldn't trust anybody she met on the road,
Yeah.
like nobody. Which is, I mean, it took me forever to read New Spring. I was forced, kind of in a bet by Critter and Line Spring, but once I read it, Moraine shot up to my number 2 spot for favorite characters because of the sheer will and determination and just her sense of duty. So I get it. Yeah, no, you're 100% right. 100% knew what was coming. Didn't share any of that shit. But could she really? Could she trust anybody? She was being hunted by the Black Aja who did not exist to anybody else in the tower.
Catswin herself was black.
Yeah, Catswin
Yep.
knew about the Black Aja, I believe. Or she at least suspected.
Well, it says that she thought there was a few dozen,
Right.
not the hundreds that they were.
Yeah.
Where did the Black Aja start? I'm sorry to throw that out there, but it's because the Dark One was locked away.
They were there since the founding.
So by the time that they founded the White Tower, the Dark One was reaching into the world.
Yeah, because you got to figure the founding probably took over 40 years, so Ishmael had to grace the earth at some point at that time.
Yeah, the tower.
Has he been around for that long?
Well, he comes back every 40 years, remember?
Oh, that's right. Shit.
So, he comes back, and when he came back, he was gone. And then he came back and was pissed off because of what was it called? Because of what the Red Aja did, the shit that they did. They fired killed whoever was the leader of the Black Aja, and promoted Alviren.
It's so off topic, but do we have? Go ahead. I'm sorry, Debbie.
I just want to point out that there is 3.5 pages about the Black Aja in here, and there's a paragraph about the Green Aja.
So basically, what you're saying is we should have just been calling it the Black Aja all along, and then it was infiltrated by the green. I get you.
Forest green.
Forest green.
I forgot what I was.
Did somebody say Bella?
You did. Yeah. Let me see if I can find.
I need a break. I need a 2-minute break.
Oh, that's all the green right there?
Literally it. That's all of it.
That's all right. I feel better now.
That was cleansing. You're right.
We lost somebody. Oh, we lost.
Right. It's like gelato between
gelato.
Sherbet. Or ginseng. Ginseng is also cleansing, right?
That should be your new name, Ginseng the Gleeman. Ginseng.
Yeah.
Just calming, because you're just calming.
So if we think of let's think of the Black Aja as if we just use the term Nazi and go, yeah, there's not Nazis in our organization. But that there are, and they're probably harmless because the Dark One's not stirring. But you're like, yeah, no, there's not Nazis. We don't harbor fascists. We don't. But they all kind of knew, but just didn't think. I mean, no.
Did anybody tell the Aja, the Aes Sedai, the Black Aes Sedai Aja in Ohio?
I don't know if I really believe that believing that the Black Aja was fake was really that unbelievable. Because if you think about it, if you go through the White Tower as a novice and accept it, you take the 3 oaths, you go through all these things, and all you hear about through your entire life there, and we're talking about 20 years, from novice to Aes Sedai. You if you're not a dark friend, all you hear about is how we are protectors. We're there for the light. We take the 3 oaths. You could possibly believe that there's no way any of my sisters are.
100%. Because nobody wants to admit that they have a problem.
Yeah.
Right? The first step to getting better is to admit that you have a problem. Oh, wait, sorry, that was my AA stuff.
Yeah.
My apologies. But no, I mean, 100%. Nobody wants to admit it. Right? Case in point, U.S. military or the intelligence organizations in the country don't want to admit that we have people within our organizations that spy. But then we see people like Robert Jansen who gets arrested, right? Biggest this was a while back. You know what I'm talking about, Beth. That are basically Black Aja, right?
Jansen, huh?
That
His
was it
name's
Hansen
had
or
to be
Jansen?
Jansen.
Was it Hansen? I think it might have been Hansen.
I think it was Hansen, but I'm not.
It was
100%
Hansen.
sure.
Sorry, man. You're on my mind. I think about you all the time, big guy.
Social media is going to be calling me a spy now.
Yeah. I mean, so we
You're a
have
plant.
so,
You're a ship.
but we have like Snowden or
Yeah. Black
is
Aja.
that is that or is that Blue Aja?
Well, no, that's
No.
definitely.
Blue Aja would be the actual whatever
Would
intelligence.
have been me.
unit. Yeah.
When I was in the military.
Yeah.
Would have been Blue Aja.
If
Literally.
Black Aja would be that 1% that is doing wrong things with that information, right? That's where that would be.
But they weren't they were trying to open up transparency, right? So couldn't they think that the NSA itself was the Black Aja and they were the ones trying to
Everybody does what they do for their own reasons.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, you're right.
Motive.
I mean, I think the thing that you also have to remember about Aes Sedai just like ignoring the obvious about that Black Aja can't be in our midst is the Aes Sedai are also the most power hungry, aggressive group of people in Randland.
Even Egwene.
They are the Muppets.
Absolutely.
They are the Muppets of the Wheel of Time.
They also think they are the only ones that can do what they can do, including Egwene, who's like, you know what? Let me do the Q&R. I can't delegate this. I can't. She had to micromanage everything because that's kind of the way. Yeah. I can't leave this to an intern.
Battle. This is not to be left to amateurs. Hello.
Jansen, you're already being accused of stuff in chat.
This isn't my latte. This is the end of the world. Do you guys want to go on? Do we want to go on to the yellow Aja or do we want to stay on green still?
Let's go yellow.
Yellow. I like yellow.
I think green's been abused long enough.
Yeah. Let me check my notes. Make sure I don't have anything else.
Oh my gosh.
But we are the hottest Aja. Sorry.
Listen, the green spent all that time studying the Kama Sutra, as opposed to
we'll be jealous.
Battle plans.
We're the hottest, and we get the most ass. Sorry.
Yep.
Facts is facts.
But do you get quality ass? Is the question.
Have you seen Maximilian Vaughn? Sorry.
Oh, okay. All right. No, you're right. Never mind.
They're warders. They literally spend all their training. Come on. This is an orgy full of like beautiful, fit people who just spend all their time training. Come on.
Yeah.
Well, I like yellows. Yellows to me are sexy. The yellows might be the sexiest to me. I don't know.
There's something about healing hands.
Yeah, they wear those nursing outfits.
It says here the personality Yellow Sisters are known for being self-assured. It is often commented that they take great care in their appearance and have been described as flamboyant.
They are flamboyant.
That's bedside manner right there.
They're often
But
arrogant.
They're like whites in certain ways as well. They're very businesslike. They're very, they like order. And we see, Nynaeve is obviously the top yellow we see, but we see ones like Ramonda, and they like to take charge. They're like doctors in a lot of ways. And I'm not talking about the healing aspect.
No, you're right.
About the PhD aspect. And
the arrogance.
And tons of arrogance, and arrogance to a fault of their own Aja almost. And obviously at the last battle, Nynaeve proves that better than anything else. Because if it wouldn't have been her there, the world would have ended without the power. You want to believe, especially when you look into the future of this world that Robert Jordan created, that Nynaeve, being one of the leaders of her own Aja, would be making it mandatory for yellows to understand what true healing is, even outside of the power.
Well, this is you make a good point. It says here that healing is a talent with a capital T, that
Yeah.
not all Aes Sedai possess, but it is considered a requirement for entry into the Yellow Aja. It also goes on to say that indeed there are many skilled healers outside the Yellow Aja, but the best and most skillful ones are said to be always yellow. So that means that healing is a pretty common talent.
Yeah,
Right.
but the book also contradicts that.
Say how?
When Egwene is in the White Tower as a captive, she's talking to the Yellows, and they actually say you'd be a great Yellow, and she says, "But I can't heal." They say to her, "The Yellow is not about just healing; it's about healing other things too, about healing the world, about healing different things other than just the physical body." And they say that to Egwene.
Here's what it says. In fact, it says, quote, "Being of the Yellow isn't about skill, it's about passion. If you love to make things well, to fix that which is broken, there would be a purpose for you here."
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to, in my opinion, thought. I mean, how you think about things, right? Like, for example, lawyers go to school and become lawyers. They excel at that. They have a lot. The good ones have a talent at communication, at debating, that kind of stuff. Very verbal, very charismatic type stuff, right? Doctors, the good ones, have compassion. Okay, so these are all traits that we all have. Some of us are just better at stuff than others because we understand it or we feel it differently. So, and I think that's how the Ajahs work, especially with the Yellow. I mean, Yellow is about compassion, like you said, right? And to find someone who is that compassionate as Egwene was, because Egwene was a lot of things, but Egwene was very compassionate.
Yeah.
And that's what would have drawn her or allowed her to be pulled into the Yellow. So, yeah, I mean, to me, there's a lot more than just a talent, right? Like, Elaine has a talent with earth and metals or whatever. She just understands it better. It's not a talent. She just understands it. She's a studied person, right? She was taught all of these things.
Her way of healing uses all 5 powers instead of just like
for
spirit,
Nynaeve,
water, I mean, but it seems that they would just use this one recipe. I mean, I'm in the kitchen and I make all kinds of pasta. It's still pasta, but I make all different kinds, right?
Right.
Why aren't they doing that with healing? Why aren't they like, "Hey, I got a paper cut"? They're like,
They
"Well,
are.
I don't know. Let me try to use a little spirit
They
and
are.
fire."
They kind
Yeah,
of
they are.
are.
So the talent of healing, is nuanced. So you have people who have, let's say, just the talent of healing, and you weave spirit and air and water together, and then everything in your body that can be healed is healed. And then you have a higher level of talent, like, let's say, Chesmal Emry, or Nynaeve, or Suwana, or other Yellows. Dagdara, I think, might be one of them. I can't remember the names of them, but they have the ability to isolate and to fine-tune their weaves a little bit, kind of like specializations in medicine, where they would be able to say, okay, because I think was it Debrain who basically got slaughtered, and then Samitsu had to go in there and really dig in and say, okay, if I heal him, he will die from the shock of everything. But I can also go in and do these fine weaves and whatever and isolate what's wrong and at least bring him to a level where he can heal naturally. We can even go back to the Age of Legends. You have Cimaraj, who was the most talented healer of her time, and she could take anything and heal it, bring everyone back, from the brink of death, which is not something that all restorers or all healers can do. So I think there is a nuance to, can you only heal a finger cut, or can you go in there and mess with the fine tunings of the human body?
I mean, we have that today. It's broken down today. Would be a first responder, an EMT, a nurse, a doctor, a surgeon, right? Same freaking field, different levels. And the majority of Aes Sedai, I would say, in the books, if we classify like that, would fall within the nurse region, and then you'd have some doctors, right? Like Moraine said, "Oh, this isn't my talent." She might be a first responder, maybe an EMT at best, as far as level. But I mean, they call it talent. It's just how well you understand what you're doing.
All right, so but Nynaeve healed Stilling or Gentling, both, and
I think that's the only big healing done that.
But hold on, let me finish my question though. She passed the information on, and others were able to do this. Should we assume that only healers with the capital H could do this, or why weren't they able to do why is it that suddenly Nynaeve shows them and they're like, were they like, oh duh, why didn't we think of that before? Or what was it?
They were complacent.
Well,
they
because
tried?
Because they only ever used spirit. Yeah, they only ever used spirit, air, and water to heal. And if you remember when they watched Nynaeve heal Swan and Lyanna, she was kind of really pissed off because no one was saying, "Good job, that's amazing, you did great." Everybody was like, "Oh, she used fire and earth." I imagine we could do those for help with things on the heart. So I mean, it's just it's like the way what we've talked about in the past. It's like once they've learned about a weave, they always cast the weave the same way. Basically, in essence, the people that are in the Yellow Aja are having to retrain themselves in and breaking down their own blocks to. That's why Nynaeve was so successful, because no one ever trained her how to do it. She just did it.
The Aes Sedai did it to themselves. They trained a certain way, and they were not allowed to do anything different.
They hamstrung themselves because nobody thinks outside. Well, this works, and this works, and this works. So, and we can't do this because for 3,000 years, no one's been able to do this.
Well, consider this, guys. So we saw Moradin in awe, or at least be dumbfounded by different things that new channelers did. We also saw Demon Dread be in awe of things like involuntary rings, with gateways to look on the floor to see battles. Like, what else are they going to come up with?
Unraveling, yeah.
We never, ever, ever heard Semarhog say anything about any of the healing, because she was even better than them. We heard Gideon, and I think the chapter Veils, where we get a whole lot of information, but she says that the healing the Aes Sedai did was hasty field work.
Battle dressings and shit.
And we also heard her say that Semarhog could have easily healed Samael's wounds, his scar. No one else could do that. Like, I think
she was the only one.
Yeah, I think Semarhog had to be the best healer in the entire series.
And if you remember, once was it Missouri? When the Ashman started healing, right? And the Aes Sedai couldn't see it, but they're like, "What did you just do?" And they started talking. It was opening up even more ways of doing things, right?
Yeah. So didn't we see Imarin heal Pavara later on in the?
I believe so. It's really amazing. Like Beth said, they hamstring themselves. But again, all of the Ajahs did that.
Yeah.
The green, the blue, they all did that.
Yeah, you saw that too in the world, because when the Aiel Wise Ones were apprenticing the Aes Sedai, Cadswain was talking to Cerelia and said, do you really think you're going to be able to teach them, the Aiel way to do this weave? And I think the inference is like, we have a way to get the same effect with the weaves of the White Tower, and the Aiel have a way to get that same effect with the Aiel weaves, but learning a second weave is whatever. And of course, the Wise Ones are like, that's not exactly what we're really trying to teach them anyway. But kind of what Tebeth said, the Yellow Aja knew that, water, spirit, and air were the healing weave. So when they came up with the 5 powers weave, kind of what Jansen said, like, that's the weave that Semiraj used and was immensely talented in it. And so she would not have been surprised by it, but it would have been more difficult for the Yellow Aja to unlearn and then relearn.
Another thing to add to that is that we also have to take into account power level.
Oh, that's true.
Okay, so we have to take that into account as well, because just because they could think it, they didn't have the power to do it. They'd be stuck at a certain level, right?
Right.
Yeah,
So that's just
calling out the male channelers. So presumably the power is getting weaker and weaker and weaker as generations go on.
Yeah, and Cinerage was on the same power level as Lanfear, so I can totally see how she might have even had a little bit more of an advantage than anyone, really.
As you guys are talking, I'm thinking in my head of a pitcher throwing different pitches, right? And then saying, oh no. Yeah, and you got to know, in order to do this pitch, you need all 5 fingers on the ball instead of just the 1 or 2 that you have. Like when you're throwing really hard, you need to have all 5 and watch what it does. If you do it right, it's actually going to freaking do this thing. Well, it's or all 4 in Jansen's case. Yes. Sorry, buddy. Too soon? Was it
so
too soon?
rude? So rude of you, Dan.
All right. So in theory, you need all 5 weaves, meaning like you got to throw the ball like holding it different, and it sounds easy, but it's hard, especially
So like
if you don't have 5 fingers. Yeah, how do you do
between a difference between a curveball and a knuckleball, for example?
Right.
It's the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Jen, I looked up and I was like, "Fuck."
I walked into that one. Yeah, I guess. Sorry, buddy.
I love that.
Oh man.
But yeah, if you think of it like that, or even like if you're a golfer, oh no, you just got to change your grip. It's hard. It's like everything is just, it's not intuitive. And so maybe it's like that. It's like, oh no, a pitcher, no, you gotta use your pinky when you do that. And you're like, oh, my pinky? I gotta use spirit? And maybe it's like that. It's just hard.
It's like using a regular mouse and a trackball.
Regular mouse and a trackball.
Fuck trackballs. That's all I'm saying. I hate
Those
them.
remember those tiny little nubs next to the space bar? That
Oh, shut up! On the IBM ThinkPad.
Get the fuck out of here with that! That little tiny gray button that's like a mouse.
I will say this: that anybody that had one knew where the clitoris was. That's all I'm going to.
Yeah.
I mean, they know how to work that.
that.
Sorry, Beth.
Sorry, Beth.
I mean, I'm all about finding
What is the clip?
that spot, but
Finding North Harbor. You're
Like-
up to it.
Tavera didn't apologize to Mr. Thovey. He's like, sorry. Beth.
Listen,
Like,
I mean,
he's a professional.
Let's not
anyway,
underestimate Beth right now.
Don't underestimate me, okay?
I didn't say it,
no.
but you blushed a little bit, so I
No,
apologize
she's
for the
a ball
blush.
hero, I'm sure.
Anyway,
Ball heroes, guys. All right. Yellow. Their leader is called the First Weaver. First
Like,
Weaver.
leave
to
it
me,
to Weaver.
Yeah, leave it to. Yeah, you're a little hard on the beaver, Mrs. Weaver. It made me think
Sorry, Jason.
of like weaving, like mending. It like to me, like I got that mending feel for weaving, like the First Weaver, like a basket weaver. But it also is kind of a little odd.
No,
for
well, think
the
about
leader.
it. If you think about it, you know, we have the pattern, right? The pattern has threads, right? The pattern, the wheel weaves as the wheel wills. Everything's about that. And when they're healing, they're literally weaving the flesh and the bone and all that stuff back together. So it makes sense that she's called the First Weaver to me.
I see.
Does that make sense or no?
It does. Yeah, it does.
But-
And to me,
but-
they were only using 3 of the 5 powers.
Great.
So
Yeah.
I mean, they were
Yeah, but I mean, you can if you knit a beanie, right?
Yeah.
It could be 1 stitch, 2 or 1 color, 2 colors, 3 colors, same beanie, different amount of freaking weaving happening, or crocheting, or whatever you want to call it.
Okay. Anything else about the yellow? Yeah, right.
I was just gonna say Beth Doman had to head out, So we all wish her the
Um,
best. I'm sure she's going to be streaming or.
I'm gonna go find her in the game and I'm gonna shoot her. And no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, shoot her.
No, she'll kick your ass. She's so much better than you.
He keeps saying that. Listen, you guys don't know. I've been playing that game since it came out. I just don't stream it.
What?
So what? All right. Well, hey, the gauntlet's been thrown. All right. So yeah. So we're finishing up the yellow.
Cool.
I feel like the yellow are like the biggest missed opportunity. In a lot of ways, you can complain that they're the same as the green, and that they've really been. What are they doing? Right? Like, why have they not developed a yellow network across the land to help cure disease and childhood polio? Why have they not like created little yellow hospitals or little fucking like stop-in centers? They've done nothing but hang around being in like fucking around in the White Tower.
Mistrust.
They're not innovative with their weaves. It took new characters to jump in. All of a sudden, they're learning how to heal in vastly different ways. So they're just literally like mechanics who won't like update their fucking like
Their licensing.
Yeah. They're just like, hey, I don't work on electric vehicles.
Oh, this is a Tesla. Sorry,
I only do diesels.
You know,
Right. So
really good point, and it's like I've always thought, I hate cops, just me, but I've always thought that firemen were everything that cops should be, that they aren't.
yeah.
They save lives, they help people, they feed people, they do things like that, and just like the firemen are like that, I think that the kin are the yellow Aja that the yellow Aja are supposed to be.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Exactly.
100%. The biggest issue with them setting up
Yeah.
shops and hospitals and stuff is that the populace didn't trust Aes Sedai.
Exactly.
They were afraid of them, so they probably wouldn't even go to them. They would still go to the apothecary down the street, or mistress whatever that
I
gets.
think of the wise women in Abu Dhabi.
Well, I mean there's that feedback loop. Yeah, they don't go out and like prove their worth, and thus the distrust is continued. If they went out and actually like patted babies on the head and like all shucks some fucking old people, I'm sure they could.
Yeah.
Right, it doesn't take much to like
Listen, babies.
if you actually run into a situation and start saving a bunch of lives, like people will be like, "Oh shit, this is a
Hell
valuable
yeah.
resource." Yeah, no.
The
I
two
hear
rivers
your-
smoke change very quickly.
I hear your
It's
reasoning, but it's also like, is it the people's fault or is it the actual all powerful beings with magical powers fault?
I'm not blaming the people 100%, but think about this. Let's say you had a town and you had two yellow sisters, and everybody that got sick or hurt went to these yellow sisters.
Be amazing.
And then all of a sudden, everybody's always healed, right? Nobody gets hurt for more than freaking an hour until they get, healed or whatever. What happens? They start expecting the yellow Aja to be there for everything. So when somebody dies because of something, where were you? Why couldn't you fix him? Right? That kind of stuff. And again, and that's just one side of it. The other side was that they just did not trust Aes Sedai.
Ryan, the worst
Period.
8 words you could hear is "We're here from the government. We're here to help."
Yeah.
Yeah, we're here for the White Tower. We're here to help.
How many
We have a warrant for your arrest. How many
are
words is that?
there? Like, how many are there? They're gonna send every single one out to every city,
Yeah.
and like they're just gonna be there alone by themselves, like. And,
Yeah.
sitting
Yeah, do
behind
some
a
fucking
little
good in the
group.
world.
There's a Gideon Bible in every damn hotel room. Why can't? If they tried, they could do it. They could heal everything. There's enough of them. There's enough people with the talent, and you got to think that most of the Wilders that survived have the healing talent because they end up being like wise women and stuff, right?
All right, so Liz Jr. said, "Isn't that what servants of all means?" Wadaholic agrees with you, Dovey, but that's hard.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll agree with you.
Yeah, no.
You say the
Service
earth
for
is flat,
all.
he'd be like, "Yes, Dovey, the
Yeah,
earth's flat."
I mean, you didn't land on the moon.
Dovey, I don't mean to jump in front of this bullet for you. Okay, in service to all means in service to everyone equally, not to every freaking single person that you can't get to because they freaking got hurt 3 towns over. right? And you have to
It's
run
the
over there.
royal all, just like the royal we.
It's
we
like,
needed
yeah,
kind
it would
of
be
all,
like
but
the, yeah.
It's not all. I mean, I don't mean
Servants
all.
of all.
I mean, just
not,
like the, like, all.
Not the band all. Yeah. It's not the band
Like
from
when I
Santa
say
Cruz
all
called all.
y'all. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
You take if you know you have like an Aes Sedai on call. People would be like,
What?
oh, I'll just do this. If I get hurt, whatever, let's go see the sister.
I'm going
Well-
to answer a chat thing, Blues Jr. I don't hate children who get hurt.
I do.
Yeah.
I hate the sound of crying. It,
Same.
it makes me cringe and really makes me want to make you cry even harder. I don't know what it is. And children, and I deal with
Tavern walks
listen.
around. I'll give you something to cry about. That should be your
I gave you
t-shirt.
something.
Tavern.
Yeah.
Oh, you should have seen. I had a shirt on that I changed for this stream, and it said Generation X. Fuck off. That's
Oh,
what it
okay.
said. No, so with my kids growing up, anytime they got hurt, I literally would say to them,
Oh no.
"Is your intestine coming out? Is that an eyeball that popped out? No. Okay, you're good."
That's army humor right there.
They would laugh, and that would be the end of the crying.
No, the way to make Tavern a happy dad is to say, no, they're not tears, they're meat sweats from my eyeballs.
I don't.
Meat sweats?
Yeah.
Meat sweats.
I'm really
Jansen, what do you think about children crying, Jansen?
What do you think about meat sweats, Jensen?
Meat
I
sweat.
still have a small child, and I still get. So it's for me, it's pretty much a signal.
Yeah, it's a
It's a
communication, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
We
trigger.
do have to think that Tarvalon itself did have yellow Aja medical assistants within the city grounds itself.
Yes,
We
they would
just
they would
do.
bring people to Tarvalon to get healed.
No,
So
if
they-
you lived there, you had a hospital, you had a health
You
care.
had coverage.
You had an urgent care.
Yeah.
somewhere
You had
near.
Obamacare?
You had Obama. You had a light of care somewhere in.
There's taxes.
Yeah.
Light of
like-
care.
I wonder if they had HSA. Tarvalon.
I believe so.
So a lot of the way benefits.
I know that. Listen, I know that freaking Aes Sedai had a pretty healthy 401k that they could borrow from whenever they wanted. That's for damn
Mhm.
sure.
So to Ryan, to your point, as far as like yellow
it hurts.
healthcare and hospitals and co-ops and all that shit, as far as health, and there, I think the further you got from Tarvalon, the least likely it was to happen. But around Tarvalon, I'm sure there was 120 yellows. They had to have been, there had to have been a dentist. There had to have been a chiropractor. There had to have been a yoga yellow. There had to have been like these health
How would-
specialties within
How would a
Tarvalon
dental
itself,
weave work?
right?
How would a dental weave work? What the?
Yeah.
You
I
spit your teeth.
just figured out, yeah, you just reduce the inflammation. I just figured out why
Got a cavity
yellows are all so like arrogant, right? If you go in to save someone and they die, you just say, well, the will weaves is the will wills.
Well,
And you're good.
There was a dark
And they all-
side.
Just like the Matrix, like psh,
and they all
I'm
drive
not guilty.
Mercedes. They're all like plastic surgeons.
Oh shit, that was funny.
Well, remember that they also didn't have traveling. So in the Age of Legends, they could gateway them wherever, and they had terrestrial telephones and cell towers and whatever. But in the modern age, just the actual, kind of like the show said, is there anything slower than a horse? They had to jump on a horse, and if they even heard that there was an outbreak of COVID in Atuan's mill, then they had to horse their way over there and try
yeah.
whatever.
That's
So
a
it was
horse.
just kind of-
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Horse their
You're
way
right.
over there.
And no one likes horse in it.
Al horse mark.
Fucking horse.
So I brought up a question in my own head when I mentioned plastic surgery, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I picture that ageless face, and I'm biased because I grew up in California, but I'm picturing kind of like that, like an older person that kind of has like that Botox and like the duck lips and like that like the Beverly Hills face as being like the Oathrod face. Like to me, the Beverly Hills face is the Oathrod face.
Like
And
Blue
so-
Steel?
And to that end, do you think that there are plastic surgeons of the yellow that will like people want to like I want to look like an Aes Sedai?
No, they were livid if anyone tried to claim.
That's right.
They would
That's
go
right.
beat their asses. Like
Yeah.
I'm talking like they would horse their way over to wherever. Like, how dare you?
God damn it, I'm getting up.
Yeah.
I had to horse all the way over here, you
You
piece
want to
of...
look like an Aes Sedai? I'm gonna make you look like a troll. Like,
Oh, you scared me. I thought someone said it.
it
was Elaine and Nynaeve got taken by what's her name to the kin. Like immediately, like you're impersonating.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. Even non-Aes Sedai would freaking beat your ass
Look at me
for it.
terrified.
That's crazy.
All right. You don't think
But
there's any
I will
back
say
alley
maybe,
shit?
maybe in the White Tower because they did have the Mask of Illusions or the Weave of Illusions. Maybe like they would go into a corner and be like, look at me.
Wait, do that again?
That's how the weave sounds.
That's exactly
That's
how
the
it
sound
sounded.
effects.
That
Sound
was
effects had a
amazing.
reverb to it. I like
Yeah, it had a little. Yeah, it was cool. I liked it. But I don't think plastic surgery was a thing for them. I don't think that's a weave that they would use. Like when you brought up the whole dental thing, they had to be dentists. That blew my freaking mind because it's not something I thought of that they would do.
They brush their teeth with salt, so I don't think they're worried.
I mean,
yeah.
and with Aes Sedai, I don't think they needed to work on their teeth because they age so slowly. You know?
You don't think they got cavities from honey cakes?
But is there sugar in honey
I mean,
cake? Are there artificial sweeteners in honey cake?
Oh,
Senbui did not have all his teeth. Go
It
ahead.
did work. Almond Bunt only had 2 teeth, but his grandson carved dentures for him.
Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm dead. I'm now dead.
Ryan, neither you or
The
I.
fact
have
that
teeth.
Jansen pulled a dental thing out
How
of the
many
book.
teeth? 2 teeth. I bet if we get nobody. Okay, Jesus fucking Christ.
He
Right,
called
right.
the wondrous thing.
So,
Jansen, I love you, buddy.
God.
You're I love you so
Jesus
much.
Christ, I'm like scared and in awe of this whole thing.
You can't bring anything. Every time he comes up with some obscure fucking thing, like 2 teeth.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, so am I wrong? Is there not dentistry, do you think, within the Yellow Aja?
I don't know. I don't think it's ever been mentioned.
No, yeah.
A tooth grow back. Like they can't make an arm grow back.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine a lot of people lose
Not
their
Harry
teeth
Potter.
in battle. You get a
I mean, I guess they could repair a
Eyeball.
cavity if they could repair a broken bone.
Yeah, like a gum disease or something. I'm sure they could weave that out. But
Yeah, Dobie brought up a good point. They could have freaking, well, Matt wouldn't allow it, but they could have fixed his eyeball if that's the case. I think it works just the same thing as death. They can't heal death. They can't repair something that is no longer there.
Well, Moraine says that she
I
could
think
not
you're right.
recreate the eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And Uno. We have a bunch of
Yeah,
characters.
Uno. Yeah, but
Jesus. Oh, yeah. Jansen, when did she
Well,
say that? I'm sorry.
Grandpan.
Remind
I don't
me.
think I'm ready for a 2-eyed Uno.
Came out
I'm sorry.
right after Matt beat the elephant and the elephant, and she sat down and she said, "Matt, you still don't trust Aes Sedai." She says that I can't fix I'm not powerful enough to fix it anymore. But she says, but with this, I'm more powerful and I can fix it. I can't fix the eye, but I can heal the wound.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
I'm
it was
sorry.
right after
I
you,
meant
so-
what
yeah,
chapter and book is that, Jansen?
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. Now, what page?
Regrowth
Well, that-
circuit would have fixed
That's
Rand's
the
hand.
end
Come on.
of Hours of Midnight.
Hours of Midnight, right.
Got to be the second to last chapter when Matt walks out and says, "I, Matt."
What number letter is the first letter in that sentence on the page, Jansen?
You.
It's a
522. 522. There's 522 matchsticks.
Definitely.
Definitely 522. Wow.
Maybe,
All right,
maybe
so
maybe the pattern put fluoride in all the rivers and lakes and wells. It just rained fluoride.
Keep them there because the way we're going in America, everyone's
We're gonna lose our fluoride.
Yeah.
They're from
Someone
Great
learned the
Britain
channel.
in 1776.
Oh yeah,
I think-
yeah. We're all gonna be in the life of Brian.
I think what we learned about the Ajahs is that we see complacency, we see division, we don't see cooperation, we don't see the final goal that it seemed like when the Ajahs were developed they first had, right? I mean, we had one devoted to Tarmangani. And that was like 3,000 years ago when that shit was developed. So we see that for the most part, the Ajahs were kind of ill-prepared across the board. And the Ajahs themselves, I don't think was a very good idea in the long run because instead of being specialties, they became divisions and separate countries almost of information. What do you guys think as far as Ajahs in general?
I think the Ajahs represent like missed or unrealized potential. Whereas you have the Green Ajah, we talked about them and what they could have been. You think about the Yellow Ajah, and they had absolutely full knowledge of the human body. And like we saw on the show, they could have used that knowledge as a weapon during the last battle with like weaves and with, destruction weaves and with, just a range of things that you can do to the human body. But they didn't really do that because they didn't really innovate with their weaves and stuff. So I think that the White Tower teaches us that, the Ajahs did a great deal of good, I'm sure, and probably had purpose, but they really limited themselves with their own sort of arrogance and this is the way things are type stuff. If they could have shared that and sort of like been open-minded and been more innovative, they really could have taken their Ajahs into a different stratosphere, I think.
That's really well said, actually.
Anybody else have any final thoughts on all of the Ajahs?
One
before
quick
we go?
one. So when
Take
you
your
have the
time.
White Tower and all these super powerful people, I think that one of the biggest assets, or at least pluses of all the Ajahs, is something that the Aes Sedai didn't even realize. And that's because when you have a tower of all these people with such power, I think that the Ajahs' best thing was that they performed a service of checks and balances for all of the other ones.
Okay.
In
So
theory,
there's a benefit to that, you think?
Well, I think that if one of them went too crazy, then people could have either died, which is what happened with the Red Ajah killing all of those men who they thought could channel. I think that you needed the checks and balances because obviously absolute power corrupts, but when you have one Ajah getting too powerful, things go all awry, and this is the wheel of time where everything needs balance. So I think that they performed a great checks and balance system for themselves.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
the concept of having the three sitters of every Ajah be part of everything, the division itself sounds right. It sounds like it was well thought out as far as like, okay, we need a proper representation of every Ajah in order to make decisions in theory. But
like
having
Congress,
having an Armelin that was predominantly blue, that there hadn't been a red for a long time, having this weird dynamic shift hurts when you're on a team. And these were what the Ajahs became to a certain degree. Go ahead, Tamara.
I think it comes down to mindset, right? Because we know in the Age of Legends that Aes Sedai were, the name says it, servants of all. They weren't separate entities, right? They all belonged to one collective entity, and they were specialized in different things, just like you would specialize in different professions today. After the breaking, after they decided, okay, we need to come together in one spot, by that time, their mindset from what had happened, they formed cliques. Those cliques became the Ajahs. They all still, because they each wanted control, and they wanted to be like, my feelings or my emotions on this should be at forefront. And it kind of just becomes this power struggle, right? What you were talking about, the sitters. Yes, all that was to me a way of toning down how many freaking Aes Sedai could be in one room yelling at each other. All right. They chose representatives, just like you would, choose representatives for the House or whatever, because the entire state can't be present, right, to argue,
right,
and it puts everybody on equal footing.
But
right?
yeah, exactly. The red
Yeah.
had significantly more than the brown, and yet they still had 3 sitters as an active voice.
And that's how they had to do it, because if not, one would run, roughshod over the others, right? So again, it's just it's. We've talked about this before. It comes down to feeling, right? The Reds thought that the most important thing was this. The Blues thought the most important thing was this. They couldn't come to an agreement, so they created these Ajahs, right? These cliques. And the only way to maintain, proper decorum of any kind was to set up the hall and to have an Amyrlin.
Well, but to what degree does, I know you love this, Tavern, and I'll ask Mistress Dovey and Dad's Wine, to what degree does the black come into all this as far as the divisions within? Would they have still been as mistrustful and secretive from each other if there was not the Black Ajah element?
Absolutely.
Yeah. They would have still been.
You have to understand, this all happened after the breaking, when the world went crazy. So some of these Aes Sedai might have banded together and started thinking, having like-minded thoughts. And when they finally came together, that's where the division came in. With the Black Ajah, listen, the Black Ajah is, on top of everything else, is a distraction, right? It's like, for example, one world power sending in spies or whatever to usurp another world power, which is pretty much what happened. What's that?
You said fellow kids. Hello, fellow kids. Yeah. Go ahead. Go.
But yeah, I mean, the Black Ajah to me, again, was just an operation. It's a terrorist cell. It's a terrorist organization. It's nothing. It's not this huge thing, right? They do some damage, isolated damage here and there for sure.
Yeah.
But
Tavern, I have to disagree with you so hardly.
Well, hold on. Jansen said no as well. Let's let Jansen, you said no. You said they would have stayed the same regardless of the Black Ajah as well. Why?
Because they're
I said the same thing.
Mm-hmm. The Aes Sedai.
No, I'm saying Jansen agrees with
you.
Okay.
We see POVs, at least 3 I know of, that talk about the mystique and the mysteriousness of the Aes Sedai being part of who they were. Being upheld higher than other people helped their image. So being secretive and not telling people certain things, that's part of it for the Aes Sedai. And I do think this, though. I do think that is different now for them than it was in the Age of Legends. Although I do think that they were also secretive in the Age of Legends in a different way. I think that opening the bore is what gave the suspicion to the world, and I think that would have been there anyway.
Ryan, you disagree?
Well, I disagree with Tavern's idea that the Black Ajah were just like a nominal terrorist group. Like, if we discovered that 1 in 10 of our intelligence, military, 2 in 10 executive branch, if we discovered that the seats of power, 20% of them were literally I don't know what's equivalent, Satanists, whatever, we would that and how high up we see that they were able to infiltrate,
we'd be horrified.
We'd be screwed. But we're also looking at numbers, right? And we can't equate that to today, primarily because there are too many freaking people in the world, and the number would dwindle from 20% or 15%, whatever the hell it was, to a fraction of that.
Or maybe you multiply, like maybe be like a spore.
We have at the beginning of the story where Moraine and Swan are there, and they're like, "Oh, I don't know if I can trust anyone but you two new girls because you haven't been here for longer than like a year. You're brand new, and I know you haven't been corrupted yet." I think the Black Aja was a major reason why they didn't communicate with one another, and I think that they thought that they can trust their yellow sister. Because, well, gosh, we grew up together, and I know you. You know, we live next door to each other, but I don't trust that gray over there or that white because 1 in 5 of us are fucking corrupt. And when
they didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, when the prophecy happened,
yeah, okay.
Like,
when the prophecy happened, Moraine and Swan were the ones in the room.
And they're like,
why did they not trust anyone with that information?
Yes, they weren't even.
Can you imagine if I walked out and said Jesus was just rose up? I just felt Jesus rise up. What the hell would that do to the population? What would that do to freaking everyone?
Well, you have to, but what it would do was it would only do one thing. It would only affect 3 people: you and the 2 people in white shirts.
No, I agree. 100%. I'm with you there. I was just using that as an example. Hold on. I don't believe in that. I'm just putting that out there.
All right, so Denswin and Dobby, do you have any thoughts about the black influence? I mean, on the Ajahs themselves?
Denswin, would you like to go first? Because I would like to have the last word as a woman.
Oh,
okay. What?
Yeah. Why are you assuming, mistress?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's assuming. Wow, damn.
With this beehive, I cannot believe. No, I agree. I also think that the purpose of the Black Aja was kind of the instrument by which Ishamael was keeping tabs on the White Tower, and it was his purpose to create division and to make sure that they were not, coming together as a single entity to aid the Dragon Reborn. And so I do think that there's an element of the Black Ajahs interference, which caused the Ajahs to act the way they do. But just like Jensen said before, the Aes Sedai were power hungry. And they wanted the power anyway. It was their own human flaw they not only had political power in the world, they also had actual, tangible power that they could wield that other people could not. So I think I think that the Black Aja, capitalized on that a lot and used that, but they had to be very quiet about it. They had to be very subtle about it. Because when Ishamael came back and found out, what the Black Aja had done, with the male channelers, he was he threw that woman into a ter'angreal and she screamed for 3 days. He was not playing around. And I think that affected Alviarin when he was like, and now you're the leader. And she was like, oh shit. So I think that there was an element of the Black Aja interfering, but it was subtle, and I don't know that the Aes Sedai might not have done that anyway because of their own sort of arrogance and power hungriness.
Yeah, that sucks. That sucks to think that everyone was just power hungry, and that's why instead of being guarded and protect. Anyways, all right, Dubs. Go, Tavern.
No, go ahead, Toby.
So we didn't touch on this today. I don't know if I got addressed in any of the other Aja episodes, but at the heart of this, in my perspective, is misogyny, which we haven't talked about at all, which goes all the way back to the boar, and we blame the female Aes Sedai for not helping the men, and not the men for not listening to the women and telling them this is a bad idea. It's the feminized guy's fault for not helping them.
Do we collectively think it's the female's fault?
No,
Do we blame
the
the
men
know.
females?
The
I
men
think
fucked
it's
up
the men's
wholeheartedly. Yeah,
And
they fucked
we
up.
we're blaming the Green Ajah for not being in battle all the time. When we look at the perspective of the men in the book, our main character Rand treats women like they shouldn't be in battle. They shouldn't be doing any of this stuff. Like
Yep.
it's, you know, like
That's a good one.
That's
we
fascinating.
cannot pretend that just because this is, you know, pushing toward a, you know, a system where women are more respected or more powerful, that misogyny is not something that's important.
Mhm.
And
That's
I think
fascinating.
that a lot of the stuff that we've talked about tonight, you know, like misogyny touches on it at least a little bit, you know?
Yeah, there is misogyny in the books for sure. I mean, I'll be honest with you, having read the book several times, and I don't see it as prevalent because I always see the women as being in charge, rightfully so, because based on the books, the men totally screwed everything up, right? So from my perspective, maybe other people are reading it. I've never read it that way. I mean, there is misogyny in the books, but I've never read it that way.
Delvey,
think
when you
it's
mentioned,
It's interesting, yeah.
Sorry,
It's
I was
not
going to say.
rampant, but it's there. Like
No,
there's-
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's exactly my point. I was
Like,
going to
you
say
can't-
it's almost like systematic. It's underneath everything. It's the way that men in the books sort of make the offhand comment, or the way Rand, you know, treats the maidens, or the way that, you know, a lot of the world, when they see the maidens, they're just kind of like shocked, you know, like women fighting what,
Right.
and things like
Or
that.
women in pants like men, you know,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Yeah.
or
There,
women
it's there.
mistrusting each other because women are on a like routinely pitted against each other when they have a position of power. Like it's
Mhm.
not a zero sum, it's treated like a zero sum game. If this woman's doing better, that means you're doing worse. So you can't share your new healing tip because then someone else is gonna be better than you. You know, it's just it's like
Jansen,
that-
you got to split. Yeah, we'll say bye to
I
Jansen.
also got to
These
split.
kids are
We gotta
tough.
fix
Hey,
it.
send
Love
me
you,
that-
man.
send me that
We'll see you
script.
next week. All right.
That's all.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
you know,
that it's the cause of everything, but it is touched. It touches everything. Touches it.
Yep.
I mean, and there's no way that it wasn't, you know, in the back of RJ's mind when he's writing these things. He lives in a society where women are not, were at his time not allowed to go to the military, and now they're talking about pulling women out of active combat.
yeah.
Like they've been for a short time now allowed in active combat, and now they're saying nope, pull them back out. They're effing it all up. We told you.
It's pissing me off. But yeah, 100%. It's really freaking annoying.
hey,
so
this-
yeah,
hey,
so do you believe that we're seeing, and we're not going to like disparage RJ's name, but is this like inherent like in like RJ's upbringing maybe, or is this something like, because I thought the minute you mentioned misogyny, I was thinking, well, yeah, like why couldn't he have written a group of powerful women as getting along and working together and like ruling in a very amazing way? Like, why does he have to make them like so dysfunctional?
Because
I think
conflict is what makes literature interesting.
right,
Yeah,
right.
I think-
Well, there's that.
Yeah, I think
And
Robert
it-
Jordan really, like, the more that I study him and the more that I read The Wheel of Time and the more that I discuss things with all of you guys and the rest of the fandom, you know, the more that I realize that he really did have an
Oh, we've
Oh no!
lost Dad Swain.
Oh
Well,
be a fleshed out.
That's when we lost you for a bit, and you're still breaking up really bad.
all right. Well, let's move on. We'll see what you can do about Dad Swain.
Yeah. We'll see if he unfreezes.
I have a
it.
question for a different stream that you guys might want to talk about because I'm curious. And that's, what if it hadn't have been two blues that were tasked with finding the Dragon Reborn? How would different Ajahs have handled that task?
That's a question for the Flickerverse show.
Yeah, you can. Whoever wants to take it.
No, I like this. I think oh gosh, I think
You're back.
to be honest,
back.
like part of why there was such a lack of communication was because it was two blues. And this is in the nature of the Ajah to keep secrets and not to share things, to acquire knowledge as opposed to sharing knowledge. They have eyes and ears. They don't do it. Go ahead.
I was going to say that's I mean, I get what you're saying. To me, that's a very cliche thing. Okay, the blues were secretive, but that's like saying if it had been two reds, they would have immediately gone out, found him, and killed him, right? Or stilled him or something. Would they, though? For 20 years, if they were looking for 20 years, what would that Ajah's plan truly be?
I think, well, honestly, I think the pattern would have stepped in before any red would have been able to disable him. I don't think that Rand al'Thor could have been still. I think he was destined to be at full strength when he gets to Tarmogon. I honestly do.
Every turning is different, right?
I think with Rand al'Thor,
with Rand, okay, I get with Rand al'Thor specifically. Got it.
He was destined to be at full strength when he got to Tarmogon this time.
Yeah, and specifically Rand al'Thor, I think look how the sisters did treat him once they got their hands on him. So you can kind of see the motivation. Like the only way to get the Dragon Reborn to the last battle is to shield him and stick him in a box and drag him there.
Yeah.
Right. And they kind of weren't wrong in a certain degree. They were misguided. They were wrong, but when their whole goal was to stop men who channeled, and so they're like, all right, we need to just keep them under our wing until we can let them go. I don't blame the Reds. I don't know what other way they were supposed to handle it. This is what their mantra was. Right. I mean, this is
right. And that's what I think would make a great discussion. How would each Ajah handle the job that Moraine, and Swan took on?
That's a very good. I love that.
We're always looking for topics. We might be talking about this next week, right?
Yeah, you're doing our job for us.
Yeah, there you go.
You guys paid me Lint, so.
All right, let's wrap this bad boy up. Mr. Stovey's got to leave. I got to leave. We're well past our time. This has been an amazing show. I love that idea. Let's just do that next week. Let's talk about which Ajahs, how they would respond if they were the ones with Guitar Moroso when she had her fateful foretelling.
Yeah, in fact, we'll each come up with our who would replace Moraine in each Ajah. How's that, Ryan?
Yeah, that complicated things. It sounds like homework. But
why?
We'll see. Dan, you make our guests do that. All right. Well, hey, as we're leaving, Mr. Stovey, do you have anything to promote or?
No.
No. Okay. Just follow you on Blue Sky.
Support women. That's my promotion.
And find your bliss.
They're not their witches. Support witches.
Yeah, support witches.
If you want to talk to was it Hecate? This is the time. All I'm saying.
All right, Dad Swain, do you have anything to promote before we leave?
Not off the top of my head. Support wigs.
Yeah.
Support wigs. All right, and Tavern,
lace front wigs.
Lace front wigs, especially.
Top of my head.
Would you say? Oh, me.
All right, so here's your red bubble right here.
Yeah, there's my red bubble. I actually have a new
Everyone
design.
write that down as a scrolling past.
I have one new design that I added this week. Other than that, support equality, support love, support life.
Yes, be grateful for what you have. I spent time with some family yesterday, and be grateful. We had a rough week. We're having rough weeks. We're gonna have fucking rough years. Be grateful for the people around you. Love them. Give them hugs and kisses.
Yeah. And remember, everything's super funny also.
Everything's super funny.
Everything is super funny. Like the idea that this is even happening at all, it's all just super fucking funny.
My denied abortion is hilarious, Ryan.
Awesome. Everything's so funny. Wow. Matt Gates' eyebrows, funny. It's all funny. All right, everyone. As always, run for your lives. This is The Way of the Leaf.